This is my future presentation that I would present if I were to be convincing my stakeholders to implement the use of podcasts in the classroom. So, first, by the end of this presentation, my goal is that I will have accurately and effectively described the benefit of using podcasts as a tool in the classroom, specifically in an ACT prep, mathematics, English, and science classroom. Because here in Arizona, the only way you will find an ACT prep class is through one of your core classes. And the ACT consists of math, English, reading, writing, and science. So those are the three classes where there is the most influence when it comes to preparing our students for ACT. They do not typically have an ACT prep class outside of it. Like in some other states, you would have an SAT prep class that prepares you to take the SAT and helps you with tips and tricks to take the test. There are no ACT prep classes, and the ACT prep classes would be more for the state testing because ACT is a state test. So they are not able to provide those extra prep classes that you would get if you were taking the SAT. So, first, a podcast. A podcast is a piece of audio, a story, an interview, or a documentary series that can be downloaded and listened to whenever an individual wants to. And this is a definition from the List TV show from 2019. So podcasts have very, very slowly become important to people in other career fields. They have become important to any normal, regular individual. Personally, I listen to podcasts on my way to work. I specifically listen to Growing Up with Devin Werkheiser and She's on the Money with Victoria Devine. Growing Up with Devin Werkheiser, they just he always has an interview. He's actually an actor from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide from the Nickelodeon TV show from when I was younger. He gives advice and he does interviews with other people explaining what it's like to grow up and what you need to look at when you're growing up. And She's on the Money with Victoria Devine, her and another girl that she typically interviews, they discuss different ways to help you prepare for your future, help you prepare for your retirement, what a 401k is, what the IRS actually does, what your taxes actually are, what you should be investing in, what's best to look at when you're buying a house. Like they go through her specifically, she goes through all of the different money techniques and ways to save that we do not typically think of because you just think of your normal checking and savings accounts. So then there's also the TED Education podcast, which is from TED Talks. It's typically a video, but they turn that video into a TED Talk, like a TED Talk podcast. So you can sit there and listen to different ways that education helps others, what we need to be incorporating into education, how education has changed. Recently, they have been focusing on different races and cultures in their podcast because that is something that is becoming more prevalent in our education system. And then there's the Math Dude Quick and Dirty Tips to Make Math Easier. This is a relatively new podcast that focuses on finding those easy tips and tricks for those students that do not get math right away. And I am a math teacher, so I'm always trying to find those ways to help our students succeed because not everybody understands it the way I understand it. So that's what a podcast is, and most students can listen to it wherever or whenever they want to. So, why do we use podcasts? Our first reason is to differentiate instructions. We're taught in college as teachers to choose different means of teaching our students, use different methods, use a lecture style, use a style where students can have a hands on experience, use a style where students are listening, use a style when students are making music or some type of art with their topic. But when it comes to math, it's not always that easy to just find something that fits every single style of student. So throwing in a podcast definitely helps our students see math in a different way. Like we can assist our students, specifically ACT prep, because not every student gets that ACT prep, we can help them explore their options and expand. They can listen to this in their own free time. Which leads us into the second reason. It gives students the ability to learn freely. They can listen to a podcast whenever they want. I personally listen to podcasts on my way to work. I'll listen to podcasts on my way back home from work. I'll listen to podcasts whenever I get the chance. If I'm in the shower, if I'm on a workout, like I'm on a walk, I will listen to the podcast whenever, because that is the benefit of podcasts. You can listen to them whenever and wherever. It's just like when our students listen to music in class. We can help them by giving them access to these podcasts where they can listen to it wherever. We could even offer them time in class to listen to these podcasts so that we are helping them succeed in getting the better score on the ACT and teaching them those test taking tips while not actually talking to them in the classroom, because that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid that lecture style classroom, because students in this generation Z, they do not effectively learn in this lecture style classroom. Students need to have different types of way of learning. So then our goals are, we want to help students learn the tips and tricks to taking the ACT without being prepared in the classroom. So a lot of our students do not have the access to an English classroom. They don't have the access to a science classroom because of how some of our schedules work here. But they are able to have a math classroom at all times at every point in the semester, whether it's semester 1 or semester 2. So our goal is to allow them access to this podcast so that they can listen to it in their free time. So our students that have Future Ready, that prepares our students for the future after high school, they could be assigned to listening to this podcast about our ACT practices, tips, and tricks, which just starts with the simple going to question number 31 and guessing until question 60 so that you have more time to guess on questions 1 through 30. That's something so simple that we could have assigned in Future Ready and have them complete an assignment. The other goal is to help with the needs of each and every student. So every student has different needs. Somebody might be able to just learn this in math class and then they're done, they understand what they're supposed to do. Another student may not be able to just learn it in a math class, whether they have a math class or not. They might need that extra support to hear it outside of the classroom, to hear it throughout class, to hear it right before they take the ACT. So instead of having their teacher talk at them, they have the ability to listen to that podcast prior to actually taking the ACT or prior to taking a practice ACT test in math class. And that is our goal, is to meet those needs of our students. So then lastly is my beginning plan that I had come up with. So this is technically a March communication plan, but I would rather implement this throughout the summer so teachers are aware of the change. So first I would discuss my plans with the principal and the assistant principal of academics, because those will be my two main focuses and I would keep in contact with. I would then create a presentation to introduce to the superintendent and assistant superintendent of academics so that they're on the same page as the assistant principal and the principal as to what I want to do with the podcast. I would continue working on this presentation and plan to roll out to it the rest of administration within the next day. Hopefully, I would do it by the end of that Friday. So start on a Wednesday, end on a Friday for presenting this to other administration. And then starting that Monday, I would present my final plan to superintendent and other administrative staff, which is when that final rollout would happen. And then starting the next day, I'd meet with my department chairs to discuss the initial plans and how we would implement this. So my main goal throughout this is to figure out how we can effectively implement this type of podcast into the classroom and how it will benefit the students. So it will start subject by subject, starting with math, because math is our most important part. Given English has 3 sections, if you're including writing on the ACT, math has the most time and it's the most vital in giving us our school grade. So right now we're at a C, B plus or B minus. So figuring out where we need to start, considering the math teachers are the most flexible in implementing stuff like this, that is where I would want to start implementing the use of podcasts. And I would meet and create these presentations and meet with the student achievement teacher to discuss success in using the podcast, to show her my research. And then we would continue on to work on the presentation for one-on-one meetings with the department chairs. So the department chairs are aware what I will say in the department meetings. And then from the department meetings, we can move on and work one by one in each subject, starting with math, to figure out what the benefits are and how it will work. And using podcasts in the classroom is not a bad thing. It's just adjusting and making sure we have a plan and sticking to that plan, because we need consistency and we need the people that have the capacity to keep up with the pace of how this should be implemented.